Grab your staff and gather round, weirdos, because we're going to the demon realm. That's right. Today, I'll be going through the entire story of the Owl House. All the lore like never before. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Dana Terrence gifted the world this gem on January 10th, 2020, exclusively on the Disney Channel, receiving tons of praise for its animation, humor, characters, voice acting, and emotional weight. Fun fact, it was also the first Disney property to feature a same-sex couple in leading roles. Speaking of leading roles, meet Luz Noceda, a self-assured teenage girl with the wildest imagination, living with a single parent, her mom Camilla. That's about it to start with, but stay tuned for some truly wacky and lovable characters, some incredible world building, and some of the deepest lore to ever grace the Disney Channel roster. Starting with Episode 1, A Lying Witch and a Warden. Luz Noceda is a girl with a flair for the dramatic, and let's just say her school doesn't appreciate live snakes and fireworks as much as she does. So Camilla decides it's time for a reality check at Reality Check Summer Camp. While waiting for the bus, a cheeky little owl swoops in and steals her beloved book, The Good Witch Azura. Naturally, Luz chases it into a creepy old house, and before you know it, she's stumbling into a tent full of bizarre junk and meets Ida, the Owl Lady, a quirky witch who sells human stuff. Yup, everything from deodorant to old TVs. When Luz magically fixes her TV, she becomes Ida's star attraction until the fuzz shows up. Ida pulls a fast one, fleeing with Luz on her flying owl staff into a bizarre land. Welcome to the Boiling Isles, where all the myths in our world come from, including giraffes, of which Ida has opinions.
We banished those guys. A bunch of freaks.
They head to Ida's pad, the Owl House. Yes, the one the show is named after. Here we meet Hooty, the owl demon who is essentially the house himself. Inside, we meet King. And no, he's not a Pokemon, rather a small but mighty demon who's lost his crown of power to an evil dude named Warden Wrath. Ida enlists Luz to help snag the crown back, promising to send her home afterward. They sneak into the Conformatorium, a prison for the creatively wild, where Luz really vibes with the outcasts. After some shenanigans, she retrieves King's crown, only to find it's a kid's meal trinket, but to King, it's everything. They get caught by Warden Wrath, who makes a weird romantic advance on Ida after literally beheading her. No biggie, she's fine. Ida says no thanks, and they fight while Luz almost bails, but then pulls a hero move, freeing the other prisoners and helping take down Wrath. Back at the Owl House, with a portal ready to send her home, Luz realizes maybe she doesn't want to go. She opts to stick around as Ida's apprentice while texting her mom that her summer camp might not be so bad after all. Moving on to Episode 2, Witches Before Wizards. Luz wakes up from a nightmare about her wacky arrival in the Boiling Isles, realizing it wasn't just a weird dream. She greets her new home with open arms, smothers King in love, and jumps into a wild day. But then, Hooty pops out of the bathroom and scares her silly, resulting in an accidental karate chop to his head. She discovers a mountain of what she thinks are witch outfits, only to be later hit with the reality check that they're just bathrobes and trash cones. She's buzzing to kick off her witchy apprenticeship with Ida, but Ida's got a more urgent matter at hand. Apple blood, because who needs coffee? Ida lays down the law. Becoming a witch isn't a cakewalk, and we learn about the concept of staffs that a witch only gets once they've mastered enough spells. Instead of just handing over a cool staff, Luz has to hustle for it. Enter a bag of potions to sell in a town called Bonesboro, along with King as her reluctant sidekick thanks to Ida's threat of charging rent. We then get a better look at the town of Bonesboro, and all its wacky creatures. Luz realizes she's the only human, and starts questioning her destiny, only to find the Isles are just as dreary as her old life.
I'm delivering packages, but tomorrow I'll be earning the respect of everyone on the Boiling Isles with my magical prowess.
The rest of the episode is just Luz getting scammed by a wizard, finding out the wizard isn't actually a wizard, but a puppeteer demon, getting herself, Ida, and King captured by said demon, snapping out of his trance and defeating him, and taking a wild flight where Ida shows her the beauty hidden in the Boiling Isles, and that it's not all gloom and doom, telling her she doesn't need anyone to tell her she's special. In the next one, titled I Was a Teenage Abomination, we see Luz, Ida, and King down by the beach, rummaging through the remains of a beach trash slug because apparently that's how they spend their weekends. Luz is all set to whip up some magic potions or read scrolls of ancient wisdom, but Ida has other plans, like avoiding anything that reminds her of magic school, where snooty teachers enforce the proper way to learn. Ida believes magic should be wild and free, which is just a fancy way of saying she dropped out. Not to be deterred, Luz heads back to the Owl House, pondering whether her mentor's more casual style of magic is really all that great. On her way, she stumbles upon Willow, a witch in training, being bullied by Amity, the school's top student who happens to have a cooler abomination, these creatures made out of purple goo. But poor Willow's goo monster is a total flop, so Luz, now learning that there's a magic school nearby, gets desperate and decides to cover herself in slime and pose as Willow's abomination for a class presentation in exchange for a peek at this magic school. Here, Luz and Willow meet Augustus, who Luz nicknames Gus because she's all about shortcuts, and the class begins. The students are eager to watch Willow flop because of her half-a-witch status, but with Luz's pep talk, their gooified presentation somehow impresses the teacher and Willow is crowned the new top student. And not only is Amity incredibly pissed, but very suspicious. Here we meet the head honcho, Principal Bump, who Amity goes and tattles to because of her suspicions. To make matters worse, Bump wants to unleash some old-school science and dissect Willow's abomination.
We were hoping for a closer look.
You know who Luz is pretending to be? Long story short, Gus creates some chaos for Willow and Luz to escape. They end up trapped within a lockdown spell, but with a miraculous seed from Ida, Willow casts a spell and ensnares Principal Bump in vines, granting Luz a chance to flee. The story wraps up with Principal Bump getting impressed by Willow's plant magic, moving her to the plant track, you can think of it like her major, and Luz getting permanently banned from Hexside. The icing on the cake? Ida is thrilled about Luz now sporting her own wanted poster. Ah, classic Owl House. In the next episode, The Intruder, King is trying to school Luz on demon etiquette, but she's about as interested as a housefly. Suddenly, the skies over the Boiling Isles go all thundery, and Luz bolts outside, only to discover that this rain would burn her pants off. Ida jumps in like a tired superhero and casts a force field to save the day, but it saps all her energy. Instead of napping like a normal person, she's coerced into spell lessons by Luz.
Oh, this?
Ida goes on to explain how the whole magic thing works. The bigger their circles, the bigger the spell. And before witches get cool staffs, they need to learn how to conjure spells without one. And this magic comes from, surprise, surprise,
It comes from a sack of magic bile attached to a witch's heart.
Oh, gross!
and since Luz doesn't have one of those, it leaves her feeling a bit lost. When Luz asks Ida to show her the light spell again for her TikTok or whatever, Ida passes out instead. King, feeling neglected by Luz, has an epiphany that maybe, just maybe, a potion could give her magic powers. He sneaks around Ida's room, looking for what he thinks is her magic elixir, and finds a suspicious bottle. Just when Luz is about to down it like it's soda, she gets spooked by the storm and accidentally shatters it. In classic horror movie style, the lights go out, and chaos breaks loose as Hooty gets attacked by a creature that scuttles off into Ida's room. Things take a wild turn when Luz vanishes after taking a quick snoop on Ida. Just then, King comes face to face with the actual terrifying creature, and chaos ensues until Luz swings in to save King. She lost her shoe in a clumsy moment, but when King spots a tag from the elixir stuck on her foot, they put two and two together. Ida's transformation back to normal depends on that potion, and King totally messed up by trying to help Luz. Luz had been stuck on her phone spells, but when a glitch shows a new spell circle pattern, she finally nails the light spell. And thanks to Luz's newly found skills, they managed to knock Ida back to her regular self. Afterward, Luz and King return Ida's elixir like good little magical minions, and Ida drops the bomb that she's cursed, which is why she's called the Owl Lady. They sort it all out, and while Luz and King head out, Ida crashes for a nap, haunted by nightmares of her curse's origin. A bit of foreshadowing, if you will. So, with episode 5, Convention, we get a little visit from Ida's past, as Luz, Ida, and King set up shop to sell human trinkets, only to find themselves staring at an empty marketplace. Enter Willow and Gus with a flashy poster for the annual convention, where witches can scout for their future covens. Think of it as joining a witch club, with a mystery guest dropping by. Luz, being her curious self, asks Ida if they can go, but Ida's like a wise old toad, insisting covens stifle their magical freedom, which we all know comes from being a freewheeling rebel. After some playful pestering, Ida's resolve weakens, and she dons a cowl, to keep her overdue criminal status under wraps, and off they go to the convention. And surprise! The mystery guest is Ida's sister, Lilith Clawthorn, the big cheese of the Emperor's Coven. Lilith is full of sass and a bit too proud of her structured magical world, which Ida despises. While this family drama unfolds, Luz encounters Amity, who's still blaming her about their last encounter at Hexside. Amity squishes King's cupcake just for good measure, igniting Luz's competitive spirit. A witch's duel is proposed with some high-stake rules. Luz wins, Amity apologizes. Amity wins, Luz admits she's not a witch. Yeah, no pressure. As Ida serves up some sisterly sass to Lilith about her so-called elite coven and rants about her own student, Luz arrives, panicking about her duel. And since Ida hasn't exactly given Luz a magical crash course, she resorts to a sneaky plan using magic traps to help her cheat. It's duel time. Amity starts summoning a giant abomination. Luz fumbles her way through with the traps until King tumbles into the arena, blowing their cover. But wait, Lilith is also caught cheating with a glyph boost for Amity. Awkward. Amity is crushed, not just in her duel, but also in her pride. She bolts like an upset toddler, and Luz chases after her. Meanwhile, Ida is busy trash-talking Lilith, which leads to a spell-slinging showdown between the sisters that leaves the audience running for the exits. Ida plays the sympathy card to buy time and make a grand getaway. And oh sweet justice, it works. Luz eventually finds Amity sulking, and the two manage to hash it out, with Luz admitting she's not a witch, yet she shows Amity her own magical flair with a fancy light glyph she drew in her book. Amity, struck by Luz's resourcefulness, decides to let her off the hook, paving the way for their friendship and Luz's future witchy adventures. Meanwhile, Lilith gets a stern call from her boss about her less than stellar performance. We then see her vowing to capture Ida. Sisters, am I right? After a couple of weekly shenanigans, we skip forward to episode 9, titled Something Ventured, Someone Framed, where we see Gus, who's kinda getting bullied by Bartholomew, the new guy at the Human Appreciation Society. The beef? Who has more human stuff? Go figure. Gus, in a panic, gets Luz involved, but oops, she's banned from Hexside. Ida thinks that the ban is a blessing in disguise, which leads to a little family squabble. So Gus, desperate to save his clubhouse position, lies to Luz, claiming her ban has magically disappeared, and she is over the moon. The next day, he sneaks her into school disguised as a student, while Willow raises all the red flags about this being a terrible plan. Chaos ensues as Gus plays hide-and-seek with school guards who can sniff out troublemakers. He juggles keeping Luz hidden and steering clear of her finding out he's a liar. Things heat up when Gus introduces Luz to Bartholomew, who freaks out at the sight of a real human. A human! Meanwhile, Ida finally has a heart-to-heart with Hooty and decides it's time to get Luz back into magic school. Principal Bump surprisingly agrees, until he remembers Ida's old chaos and makes her clean up a ghost infestation and other delightful messes. Meanwhile, at the HAS meeting, Gus has Luz inspect Bartholomew's human items right before he confesses he made the fake treasures to win the club's love. The members forgive him, and all's well, until Bartholomew throws Luz under the bus, so she gets yanked to detention, which turns out to be a bubble-filled brainwashing chamber for bad kids. Gus, trying to save the day, ends up getting both him and Matt, let's just call him Matt, tossed in, where he finally admits to Luz that he lied about the ban. After they team up to bail Matt out, things take a turn. Principal Bump sees all the shenanigans and blames Luz, but Gus steps up, takes the fall, and convinces the principal to admit Luz into Hexside. That's right, Luz is going to Hexside. Gus, however, gets the boot from the Human Appreciation Society for his troubles, handing Matt the president title. As everyone hustles out, Matt is left lying on the floor, pondering his life choices. There's nothing too crazy in episode 10, Escape of the Palisman, except that we get a bit of lore and learn about what Palismen are. These sentient magical totems atop of staffs that are usually in the shape of an animal of some kind amplify their users' magic, allow them to fly, and a bunch of other things. While lounging on a bench at the sleigh ground, Ida spills the tea about her Palisman Owlbert's origin story, revealing he was crafted from an ancient tree branch. But then, Ida experiences an unplanned blackout and finds herself in a creepy void. Post-blackout, she summons everyone back home because apparently curses don't like to take a coffee break. Once at the Owl House, Ida collapses on the couch looking like she just lost a duel, while Luz insists on playing nurse. Ida waves her apprentice off, insisting she can handle her own mess, and reminds Luz she has a Grudgball game to catch. As Luz goes for a quick change before heading to Glandis High with the team, she comes back to see they've left without her, Willow, and Gus. With no ride in sight, Luz proposes using Ida's staff, but Ida is now in partial owl beast mode, the curse, remember? King, seeing an opportunity, commands her to scare off some unsuspecting kindergartners at the sleigh ground as revenge. When Luz shows up asking for the staff, King convinces her Ida's totally on board, when really she's trapped in the owl beast closet. Luz, Willow, and Gus take off, but they crash spectacularly, leaving Owlbert with a cracked head that feels more like a bad date than a Palisman. Hurt by the mishap, Owlbert flies off the staff, leading the trio on a wild chase to the Bat Queen's lair, where the drama escalates. The Queen has a major grudge against careless staff users, and now Luz must tackle a series of ludicrous trials to win Owlbert back, which seem to involve a lot of bee wrestling and spider milking. After what feels like a nightmare reality show, Luz impressively manages to complete the trials, proving her apologies are more than just lip service. Here, we get to know that the Bat Queen herself was once a Palisman and was abandoned by her owner, so now she protects all Palisman. Anyways, she's still not having it and sends Luz packing until Owlbert swoops in to save the day. He professes affection for both Luz and the Queen, and after a heartfelt moment or two, they hash out an agreement allowing him to return. Back home, Luz patches up Owlbert's crack. Exhausted, Ida heads off to bed, while Luz and Owlbert decide to keep their little misadventure under wraps. Skipping ahead to episode 13, aptly titled The First Day, it's Luz's first day of school. Her and Ida are backstage at the Hexside Paranoratorium, gearing up for Luz's entrance exam. Luz is a bundle of nerves, while Ida is her usual chill self. Luz stumbles onto the stage, flubbing her lines, but somehow still manages to get in.
Spells cast with paper? I've never heard of such a thing. But is it enough to pass the exam?
On the way to her first day, Ida gives a pep talk, telling Luz that today won't be like her last school experience where she bombed every first impression. After a drop-off filled with good luck wishes, Luz struts onto campus and bumps into Amity, exchanging high fives, and then finds her pals, Willow and Gus, who celebrate her entrance exam victory and introduce her to the school's covens. She heads to Principal Bump's office and explains her plans to learn about everything, only to be forced into the potions track by Bump using a highly sophisticated selection process.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Ah, yes.
But after a disastrous first class, Luz looks for answers in a crystal ball, and ends up in detention for mixing magic instead. There she meets Viney, Gerbo, and Barkus, who initially treat her like yesterday's leftovers. But after Luz stands up to their grumpy detention teacher,
Unless you want to scrub the classroom again.
Hey, don't blame any of them. I'm the one that started talking.
they show her their secret hideout with magical shortcuts throughout the whole school. Excited, Luz opens a door that leads to Amity, who's having a bit of an identity crisis, and promptly slams it shut. Things get awkward quick when Luz is accused of not wanting to fit in and gets ghosted by her new friends. The drama intensifies when a greater basilisk, a shape-shifting monster, shows up on evaluation day posing as the inspector, draining magic left and right. Luz, Gus, and Willow jump into action, but when the basilisk takes their magic, Luz returns to her detention pals for help. At first, they play hard to get, but seeing the chaos snaps them into action. They mix potions and magic like they're at Witch Master Chef and manage to drive off the monster and restore everyone's magic. Principal Bump, impressed by their skills, decides they can take multiple Coven tracks, including Luz, who gets special permission to study a little bit of everything.
Gross. Give me another one.
In Understanding Willow, we do a deep dive into Willow's past and her history with Amity. It starts with Basha, the school bully, and Amity chilling at their lockers when their friend Skara pops up with invites to her 15th birthday bash. Meanwhile, Luz and Willow are in a heated thumb war. Basha can't resist commenting on the obvious strangeness of a human like Luz hanging out at Hexside and especially being friends with Willow.
Willow's is an automatic dork. Ugh, Skara.
When Skara nudges Amity about her past with Willow, Amity pulls a classic Blight maneuver, claiming they only hang out with strong witches. Later, Luz and Willow are having a serious photo class moment, playing scrapbook with Willow's literal memories. When Luz spots a shot of Willow and Amity at a birthday party, she can't help but stir the pot, only for Willow to freak and shoo her away. After Luz darts out, Amity sees the photo and goes full pyro, trying to incinerate it. And before you know it, she ends up setting all the memories ablaze. When Luz, Gus, and an unhinged Willow return, they find Amity frantically trying to douse the flames. So off they go into Willow's mind, with a little help from Ida to fix the mess. Inside Willow's noggin, Luz discovers the truth about Amity and Willow's history, how they were once inseparable and the best of friends. But Amity's dodging a particular memory like it's a fireball. Enter Inner Willow, a pink memory-guarding monster that's ready to throw shade at Amity while forcing them to relive their epic falling out. In a shocking reveal, we see Amity's childhood self ordering Willow to scram for being a flop at magic, after which Amity reveals her parents threaten to sabotage Willow's admission to Hexside if Amity doesn't cut ties with her. After some heartfelt apologies and a promise to protect Willow from the likes of Basha, Inner Willow decides to play nice and let them save the memories. Back in the real world, Willow tells Amity they're not exactly friends yet, but hey, it's progress. In the very next episode, enchanting Grom Fright, Luz is seen busy leveling up her plant glyph skills while King is glued to cat videos, because what else do you do in the demon realm? Suddenly, Luz gets a text from her mom asking about summer camp, and panic sets in. After a cringeworthy thumbs-up response, she spills her guts to King about how her mom would lose it if she knew she was ditching camp for magical adventures. King, ever the responsible voice of reason, suggests keeping the secret. Enter Willow and Gus, and off they go to Hexside for Grom, where Luz discovers the Grom event is a little more intense than she thought. P.S. She thought it was like prom. Amity shares the news that she's Grom Queen this year, but plot twist. Grom is actually a monster that feeds on your worst fears, and Amity's gotta face it. Naturally, Luz decides to swap places with Amity because, she loves a challenge. Back at the Owl House, amidst fear-filled training sessions with bizarre illusions, Luz faces some quirky fears, like cats with human faces. I know, that freaks me out too. Anyways, time's ticking, so she heads into the Grom showdown. Everything seems to go swimmingly until Luz realizes the main course of her nightmare is her mom discovering the whole magical realm saga. Cue to the dramatic chase as Grom shapeshifts into Mom and Luz bolts towards a cliff, with Ida and Amity hot on her heels. Amity confesses she wished to go to Grom with someone special, but rejection haunts her. Luz, being the good friend she is, asks to go to Grom with her, because in a whirl of dancing and spells, they finally defeat Grom with magic and a sprinkle of teamwork. Just as Luz thinks about the invitation Amity never got to send, it hilariously turns out that Amity wanted to ask Luz all along, sowing the seeds for something to come. After the party, Luz texts her mom, pretending everything's peachy at camp, blissfully unaware of a bunch of phony letters being sent to her mom in her handwriting. In the next one, Wing It Like Witches, Grudgball season is finally here at Hexside, but that's not why this episode is important. I mean, sure, we learn that Amity cut off her old mean girl crew in favor of Luz and Willow, and Basha can't handle this new reality, so she starts picking on Willow. All of which leads to a Grudgball match between Luz and Basha's teams. The terms are set. Win and Basha lays off Willow. Lose, and Willow's crew becomes Basha's personal target practice. But the real sauce in this episode is off the field, where we see Luz and Amity having a heart-to-heart, with Amity sharing some traumatic backstories. And even after the match, when Luz carries Amity after she breaks her leg, it seems that Luz and Amity are starting to grow closer, like a lot closer, with Amity barely able to contain herself when she's around Luz. And in other news, Lilith challenges her sister to a Grudgball match too. If she wins, she gets to arrest Ida and take her in. But spoiler alert, she doesn't. And that's pretty much it for episode 17. In episode 18, Agony of a Witch, we get a good look at this often mentioned Emperor's Castle, where Lilith is having a little chat with Kikimora, who appears to be her boss or something, promising her that Ida won't be free for long. She's all fired up and ready to capture her sister that day. Fast forward to the Owl House, where Lilith leads a raid with her Coven scouts, only to be utterly schooled by Hooty, who turns the raid into a tight five at the comedy club. Ida soaks up the humiliation with a hearty laugh, explaining to Luz about this emperor who wants to control all wild magic through his Coven system, which is why he wants to capture her. Boasting that nothing can touch her except, well, her pesky curse that likes to pop up at inconvenient times. Cue Ida's curse making a dramatic entrance and dragging her into a dream where she relives the glorious night she got cursed. Naturally, she gets annoyed trying to figure out who did it, but before the mystery is solved, bam! She wakes up to a floor littered with empty bottles and Luz and King looking distressed. Ida plays the tough gal, sending Luz off to school even though the curse is throwing a tantrum. Meanwhile, Luz gets the scoop from Willow and Gus about a field trip to the Emperor's Castle. Yes, that Emperor. They also mention a magic hat in the Emperor's Castle that can cure anything. Naturally, she's on a mission to nab that hat for Ida. Upon arriving at the castle, Kikimora gives an oh-so-charming tour filled with gems about Emperor Belos, and Luz takes a detour to follow Lilith to the Emperor's throne room. Here, we get our first look at Emperor Belos, the ruler of the Boiling Isles. What follows is a spine-chilling moment when we see a weakened Belos devouring a Palisman to gain strength. He's definitely not on Team Ida, and Lilith's in a bit of trouble if she doesn't capture Ida soon. Luz, feeling adventurous, ignores her field trip group to chase after the hat, but of course her pals catch her red-handed, plotting to snag the hat. They all bond over wanting to rescue Ida and break into the relic room, only to get caught by Lilith. She makes quick work of her pals and wrecks the hat, because why not, right? She tells them to tell Ida she's got Luz trapped. Ida catches wind of it and storms the castle in an insane magical fury that we've never seen before on the show. What follows is a crazy, visually stunning, all-out duel between the sisters, during which Lilith accidentally spills the tea that she's the one behind Ida's curse. Jaw dropped. Anyways, in the midst of chaos, Luz wiggles free from her bubble prison just in time to get tossed off a bridge by Lilith. But guess who swoops in to save her? Ida, burning through all her magic in the process. As the dramatic family reunion reaches new heights, Ida transforms and is promptly captured by Lilith, leaving Luz alone to face the music. The episode ends with Luz back at the Owl House, a puddly mess of tears, while Hooty offers comfort in his own quirky way, priming the stage for more magical chaos to come. It's the season finale, and things are tense. In Young Blood, Old Souls, we're at the house, and King spills the beans of the history of the Boiling Isles, how it's the corpse of a once great titan, imbued with potent magic, which allowed life to develop and wield that magic, and how a mysterious witch claimed that he, and he alone, could speak to the titan, who claimed that magic was being used all wrong. His strength grew, his teachings took hold, and he became Emperor Belos. Belos claimed that mixing magic was wrong, so he created the Coven system, and that those who resist are called wild witches, aka Ida, and would face severe punishment. He mentions that there are whispers going around that the Emperor is planning something big. And during all this, Luz seems a bit distracted by Ida withdrawals, and decides that saving Ida is the only option. Meanwhile, Ida's causing chaos in the Emperor's castle, prompting Belos to swoop in and restore her sanity. It turns out, he just wanted the portal door that led Luz here, to which Ida refuses, so he decides to nab the human girl instead. We then see Ida being dragged off, to which Lilith thinks now is when they heal her sister, but to her shock, the Emperor had no such plan to fulfill his promise, and instead said that the Wild Witch had to be dealt with, and gave her staff to Lilith to destroy. We then see Kikimora announce Ida's capture to the town, and that she will be petrified, as in turned to stone, at sundown. Luz then finds a way to the Conformatorium, where petrified prisoners look like a sinister museum exhibit. After dazzling the guards with her glyph spells and getting a map to Ida's cell, Luz makes a dramatic entrance to find Ida chained up, rocking her beast mode. After a tense standoff, Luz zaps Ida back to her rational state, but Ida insists Luz skedaddle back to the human realm for her safety, and destroy the portal once she's there, so Belos can't use it. As Ida's cage is lifted away, here enters Lilith, who's come to throw a wrench into the works. In a surprising twist, we learn that Lilith isn't the villainous sister we thought she was. They share a painful backstory involving magic, betrayal, and the Emperor's Coven. They were once best friends, even casting a spell that allows them to share their pain with each other, literally. But since they were both competing for the last spot in the Emperor's Coven, and Ida having the better chance at making it, Lilith resorted to cursing her, thinking it would only last the day of tryouts. To her surprise, Ida forfeited the duel and let her sister take the spot, but it was at that moment the curse took effect, transforming Ida in front of the crowd, horrifying them, and hence gaining her the title of Wild Witch and Owl Lady. With a reluctant truce, they head back to free Ida, but not before Kikimora announces the start of the petrification ceremony, which sounds like a real bummer. As chaos brews, Lilith gets caught up in a flesh tendril hung from Belos, and ends up in the petrification chamber along with Ida and King. While Luz is busy battling Belos to avoid a stony fate for her crew, he demands the portal to the human realm in exchange for their freedom. But she pulls off a masterstroke by double-crossing the Emperor, blowing up the door he thought he could use to control their fate. With the petrification machine locked on, Luz saves the day, pulling Ida, King, and Lilith out of hot water and making their escape. And it ends with a heartfelt moment between sisters making amends, and about learning magic the unconventional way. Meanwhile, the Emperor's still scheming. It's revealed that he's managed to salvage parts of the door and has started to rebuild, in preparation for the Day of Unity, making it clear that the adventure is far from over. At the start of the second season, in Separate Tides, which takes place a couple weeks after Luz wrecked the portal to save Ida, she's now on the hunt for a demon named Garlog to snag a thrilling 600 snail bounty. She finds him hiding out in a cave, but gets a rude response when he turns out to be a tiny, harmless demon.
This is pathetic.
Before Luz can even express her disappointment, Garlog gets devoured by King, who refuses to spit him out and takes off. Once home, Luz sends a video update to her mom, but shocker, it fails like all of her previous message since the portal went kaput. She and the gang are in a tough spot. Ida's magic's weak, Lilith's slumping in the Owl House after ditching Emperor Belos, and no more portal means it's time for some bounty hunting, the only way to make a living. They try to cash in their bounties, but get a measly half a snail. Ida's threats go nowhere, since everyone knows she's lost her magic. Things get funny when Lilith enjoys some fleeting fame until her poster is replaced by Belos' right-hand man, the Golden Guard's face. Luz decides they need a morale boost and sets her sights on a monstrous sea creature, the Selkidamus, with a 1,000,000 snail bounty. Ida, however, wants to play it safe and suggests a cuter target. Luz overhears Ida's doubts about her ability and feels guilty for all the trouble she's caused. So she decides to tackle the Selkidamus solo, enlisting a crew of salty sailors, while King annoys everyone by being a cracker-crazed parrot. King then discovers they're on a ship belonging to Belos and gets snagged by the Golden Guard before he can say anything. When Luz and Ida finally face off against the Selkidamus, it turns out it's just a protective parent. They hatch a clever plan to trick the Golden Guard, save King, and let the Selkidamus skedaddle. As a sweet thank you, the Selkidamus vomits up some shiny treasure. Jackpot! Meanwhile, Lilith's out searching for potion ingredients and nearly gets bee-splattered, until Hooty swoops in to save the day. They bond over their woes, and by the time Luz, Ida, and King return, Lilith has a scrying potion ready to go. They can either spy on the Emperor or have some fun, as they kick back with takeout and draw silly faces on Hooty. Meanwhile, unseen, Belos is busy reconstructing the portal, plotting his next move. In the next one, Escaping Expulsion, we get to meet Amity's parents, Alidor and Odalia Blight. One late night, they're charming some investors at Blight Industries with their latest quirky invention, the Abomaton, which can pour your tea, give makeovers, and deter unwanted guests. They drag their unwilling daughter Amity into the pitch, who's not feeling the whole family business vibe. She pretends to tussle with the Abomaton, but flips when it threatens her prized group photo. The unintended destruction sends investors scattering like roaches when the lights turn on, and Odalia's fuming over Amity's actions. The next day, Luz is instructing Ida and Lilith on how to harness glyph magic. Ida's in classic impatient mode, smashing glyphs into her desk, which promptly blows up. Later on, Luz reunites with friends at school, and things are heating up when Principal Bump and Odalia Blight team up to kick out Luz and her friends, leaving Amity stuck between a rock, her friends, and a hard place, her parents, unable to stand up for them. In a series of almost comically terrible attempts to sneak back into school, Luz and crew try every trick in the book, only to find themselves grounded for eternity. Amity catches hell from her mom via psychic text, but when Luz finds Odessa's business card, things take a turn. Meanwhile, Ida's still busy cranking out superglyph designs that look like a toddler's art project, while she is green with jealousy seeing Lilith's magic skills shine. Eventually, Luz crashes the Blight family business presentation, only to have the Abomaton launch a surprise attack on her. Amity springs into savior mode, defiantly protecting Luz and finally standing up to her mom like a hero. They team up, facing down the Abomaton while pretending to get knocked out for dramatic effect. With the investors convinced and the Blight status intact, Odalia almost reneges on a deal for Amity, but gets interrupted by Alidor reminding her that Blight honor is a thing. And just when they think they've got it all ramped up, the Golden Guard crashes their party, declaring Emperor Belos wants all of those abominations for himself, since he doesn't like people having their own personal army. In Episode 3, Echoes of the Past, we learn how King and Ida met. Luz and Lilith are chilling in the Owl House, trying to crack the glyph code for new spells. After a little back and forth and some light leg pulling, King insists he was once a mighty ruler, recalling grand feasts and epic battles, but Hooty is there to undermine him with a cheeky comment. Frustrated, King storms off, plotting to prove he's legit by dragging Ida's and Lilith's staffs into an adventure. The gang agrees to humor him, despite everyone feeling a bit skeptical. Ida, fresh out of a shower, just misses the gang leaving, but dives into action via her flying bathtub. Hours of flying lead them to an ominous foggy island, which King claims is home to his legendary castle. Sure, buddy. They find a crumbling tower, and inside, it turns out King might have a royal backstory after all, because the walls are covered in paintings of his doppelganger. After some creepy stuff goes down, the gang fakes a shape-shifting monster that they attempt to escape from. Just when things get hairy, Ida swoops in with her potions and saves the day. Everyone starts feeling guilty for doubting King's royal roots, but Ida spills the tea on how she found him 8 years ago, mistook him for a dog, and let him believe he was a ruler. King grapples with the painful truth that his grandeur was just a make-believe fairy tale and runs off to sulk like a spurned child. Luz finds him moping on the beach, and despite the fantasy smash, King gets back in the game, spurred on by the idea of rediscovering a real memory he had about Aurora atop the tower. Reunited, they decide to brave the tower once more, using Luz's new invisibility trick to sneak past the creature. They stumble on a secret chamber filled with eggshells and plot twists. King realizes he was once an egg himself. When he dons a piece of his lost horn that he found, memories flood back, revealing he wasn't just play acting. He had a father and a guardian who mistook their friends for enemies. Cue the tears. They promise to search for King's dad, and as they return home, King rebrands himself with a new symbol on his collar, though he's left wondering if he should still call himself King. Luz reassures him that he'll always be the king of her heart. Aww. While Luz settles down for the night, pondering their island discovery with the Clawthorn sisters, they agree on one thing. This quest for answers is just getting started. In the next episode, Keeping Up Appearances, we learn a bit more about Ida's childhood. So, 30 years back, a young Ida is explaining to a healer about what it's like to transform into a giant owl beast, and that it's a total nightmare where she's chased through a creepy void. The healer gives her this fancy gem and keeps tabs on the beast within Ida, but Ida's mom is not having it. She storms out to chat with the healer, and Ida overhears some disheartening gossip that nobody's ever seen a curse quite like hers, so healing it might be a little tricky. Mom isn't a fan of this "we'll try our best" attitude, and she pushes for drastic measures like "let's just cut it out." Yikes. So Ida, feeling a bit betrayed, makes a dramatic escape through her bedroom window and finds an old portal in the woods that whisks her off to the human realm. Fast forward to present day. Ida's making breakfast and finds Luz crashed out in the kitchen. Luz has been fruitlessly digging up portal facts. Before Ida can share her own secrets about it, Lilith comes in screaming. Her curse is acting up. Ida saves her with an elixir, claiming the limbs popping off is just a weird side effect.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Side effect of the curse.
Once Ida gives her the scoop about the portal, who would show up but Ida and Lilith's mom, Gwendolyn, with promises of a cure after years of searching. Ida's like, no thanks, because she's been burned by this before and is totally skeptical. Meanwhile, Luz, feeling empathy for Gwendolyn, decides to help find a cure for Ida's curse, and let's just say they couldn't find anything concrete. Things get chaotic when Luz realizes Gwendolyn is trading family heirlooms for fake cures, and she and Ida have a big old brawl while Ida's beast form rampages. Eventually, Gwendolyn comes to terms with her motherly failings and helps Ida manage her curse. After some wild action-filled antics, everyone calms down, shares a hug, and the trio realize that they have some mending to do. Gwendolyn hits the road, promising to reconnect with the girls, while Luz learns about this human who mysteriously vanished in the Boiling Isles, igniting hope for her escape from this funky realm. And back home, Mom's crying over some nature documentary, blissfully unaware her daughter is living it up in a realm filled with magic and chaos. But wait, who's this next to Camilla? It's time for some more Lumity. It's episode 5 of season 2, Through the Looking Glass Ruins. We see Luz show up at Gus's house, claiming she needs help with a library card to research a human from the Boiling Isles, to which Gus snaps back with, Gus, feeling inferior and reluctant, doubts his skills, but the fun begins when they encounter a rampaging slither beast, only to have some Glandis High School students show up to save the day. Enter Matholomew with a map leading to the legendary Galder Stones, powerful artifacts everyone wants, but nobody has found. Gus initially thinks he's too lame to join the treasure hunt, but Luz convinces him to sack up and give it a go. Meanwhile, Luz is library hopping, trying to find some juicy details about Philip Wittebane, the human who made it to the Boiling Isles. She awkwardly swoons over Amity, who's working there now, and they hatch a plan to sneak into the Forbidden Stacks to find the mysterious diary. Luz and Amity find Philip Wittebane's diary after a long time searching, only to discover the pages have been eaten by an echo mouse. Luz can no longer hold in her anger and shouts at it, alerting Malphus, Amity's boss. Disappointed, he kicks the two of them out and fires Amity. Luz tries to apologize, but Amity is not up for it at the moment. Back at Blight Manor, Amity spills her heart out over hair dye and feelings for Luz. Just as Amity starts rocking a new lilac look, Luz makes a dramatic return, bruised but victorious, wielding Amity's staff card like a trophy, explaining that she fought to get her job back. They share sweet moments and a surprised kiss on the cheek for Luz, leaving her utterly floored, while Amity bolts inside, flustered. And voila! Chaos turns to cute moments as they both realize they might just be something special. Oh, and the Echo Mouse made it back too. Next, in hunting Palisman, we take it to the dark side of things and visit the Emperor's Palace, where on one not-so-fine evening, Belos is throwing a little shindig with his Coven leaders, promising them a future where demons and humans can finally share a good chuckle over tea, also known as the Day of Unity. But just as he's getting into it, Belos has a dramatic meltdown, turning into a full-on monster and doing some heavy-duty wall punching. After his rage workout, he tries to absorb some magic, but learns that his secret stash of Palisman wood has run dry. His underling, the Golden Guard, who calls him Uncle, that's right, suggests wild magic could help, but Belos gives him a death glare that says, let's not go there. Meanwhile, Luz is chilling at the Owl House, eager for Palisman pairing day at school, and hoping her new pet Echo Mouse will spill the beans on her mystery man, Philip Whittabane. But surprise, surprise, she doesn't get a Palisman because she has the emotional range of a potato, and Palisman choose their owners based on deep emotional connections. Back at the house, she stumbles upon a cardinal Palisman that forgot which bag to fly home to. Upon returning it to its nest and meeting other Palisman, Luz stays for a while hoping to get chosen by one, when a surprise kidnapping occurs by an airship piloted by none other than the Golden Guard, a twist no one saw coming.
Ugh, him again.
Luz tries to save the day, but ends up getting caught like the clumsy hero she is. After a sprinkle of chaos and a hand-dragon attack, Luz finds herself in a sticky situation with the now unmasked and unconscious Golden Guard. But before she can get a good look, here comes Kikimora with her troop of Coven members. Turns out she was behind the dragon attack since she wanted to get the Palisman first and look good in front of the Emperor. Despite their clash of destinies, and with some time together to bond in a nearby town, they later unite against Kikimora. Luz manages to brew up a misty escape plan using wild magic, and as things climax in a tussle with Kikimora, the Golden Guard prepares to double-cross Luz next. Things take a turn when Luz gives an emotional monologue, after which the Golden Guard drops a bombshell. His name's Hunter, and he's not the heartless minion he pretends to be. Soon, emotions run high after a failed betrayal on Hunter's part, but he ultimately decides not to be the bad guy, fighting off Kikimora while Luz escapes with the Palisman. Back to normal life, she's bummed out about her Palismanless existence, until Ida and King swoop in with a save by scoring some Palistrum wood for her. Meanwhile, Hunter gets a shiny new Palisman of his own, the Cardinal from earlier. It shows him, proving that even the most reluctant heroes can harbor a little bit of magic, and a lot of promise. We get another blast from Ida's past in episode 7, Ida's Requiem. But for that, let's fast forward to later in the episode, when we see Ida at Grimgrub's pub, and she has a showdown with the Coven guards who are apprehending a wild witch. She leaps into action, using her wicked fists to save the day. But as reinforcements arrive on the scene, she finds herself cornered. Enter the Bats, bards against the throne. Ida, who's now eager to join the rebel ranks, is first met with rejection, after which she casually drops the leader's name. Rain reveals that they are old friends, and Ida is actually who inspired them to form the Bats. After catching up for a bit, Rain explains that Belos is up to no good, and they intend to stop him. Fast forward to a raid that night, where the group successfully rescues some wild witches from the Emperor's capture, with Ida's help of course. And while the others are resting, the two old friends do some catching up. The next day, during the Grand Prix that Luz and King are taking part in, Ida gets a call about another raid, which turns out to be a trap. The group, apart from Ida and Rain, are captured by Darius and Eberwolf, two Coven leaders. After a series of emotional events, they're captured by Darius, but Ida manages to get away, while Rain holds them off. Despite not wanting to, she makes it back in time for Luz and King to cross the finish line, but in 5th place. What a bummer. But Ida still encourages King to broadcast his victory message on Penstagram. Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. Letting everyone on the Isles hear it. King calls out to his dad, letting him know of his existence, while also claiming his new name, King Clawthorn. Cue the waterworks from Ida and Luz, because that's just too sweet. Meanwhile, a mysterious king-like figure is seen watching this message, and things go sideways for Rain, who finds themselves in a mess with Darius and Kikimora, who has other plans for them, and puts them in a deep slumber, leading to a suspenseful cliffhanger. Just another day in the Boiling Isles, right? This is a fun one. Episode 8, Knock Knock Knockin' on Hooty's Door, starts with Hooty feeling a bit unimportant, and not able to help out much. But that changes today. First up, he finds King in a melodramatic state, obsessed with his voice cracking and going through demon puberty. Hooty tries to bond over King growing up, but Ida is way too busy preparing for Emperor Belos' inevitable chaos, completely ignoring King's situation. Meanwhile, Luz is overwhelmed by sentiments for Amity, which deepens her mental gymnastics about getting home versus impressing her crush. So naturally, Hooty decides to juggle all three of their dramas at once. He starts with King, swallowing him for a crash course on demon puberty, complete with dance lessons, cause that's how bug demons communicate. But he ends up insulting Hooty's mom.
Don't you talk about my mother!
Let's just say that didn't end well for King. Next, Hooty tries to figure out what type of demon King is, sliding from bug to biped before landing on a blood test that yields 0 results. Talk about a bummer. King, understandably frustrated, throws a tantrum, unleashing an ultrasonic scream that no one had ever heard before. Hooty then mistakenly gives Ida cookies laced with sleeping nettles, sending her into a dream where she confronts her owl beast baggage. Surprise! It brings back memories of her poorly timed family gathering where she accidentally claws her dad's eye out. This fun little trip down memory lane culminates in Ida realizing she and her owl beast alter ego need to coexist, leaving her transformed into a new hybrid harpy version of herself, feeling fabulous. Meanwhile, Hooty's back at it. This time, he's trying to play matchmaker for Luz and Amity by literally kidnapping Amity and tossing the pair into a romantic tunnel of love. It's like you can feel the awkwardness. Things take a nosedive when Luz panics, ruining the moment while Hooty spirals into a mini existential crisis, thinking he's blown it all.
I did it again!
As Hooty's breakdown causes the house to shake, King and Ida save the day in their new forms, rallying around a confused Luz to help her pursue Amity. After some comic miscommunication and a little chaos, Luz finally manages to ask Amity out. And, in a twist of fate, Amity inadvertently beats her to it. Cut to a heartwarming moment as they hold hands, solidifying their relationship amid the chaos Hooty inadvertently orchestrated. That's right, Lumity is official now. And finally, feeling accomplished, Hooty writes all of this in a letter to Lilith. But, at the mailbox, he meets a stranger who gives him a letter to deliver to King. Hooty gets distracted by a bug crawling on the letter and accidentally eats them both, before hoping it was just junk mail. Classic Hooty. Episode 9, Eclipse Lake, gives us some tidbits on Emperor Belos, Hunter, and a whole lot more. So, Belos is having a rough day at his castle. His brand new portal key gets wrecked by the door because it's missing some secret ingredient. While sulking about a failed plan, Hunter, who's been lurking in the shadow, gets caught by Belos. Belos spills the beans about once visiting the human realm, all peaceful and serene. Hunter tries to dig up info about why he got switched out for Kikimora, and Belos cryptically talks about everyone having their uses. Meanwhile, Amity and the squad are guarding the Owl House because Luz is down with the common mold, believing she might just fall into a spaghetti monster hallucination if the illness keeps up. At that moment, the Echo Mouse does another lore drop, revealing how Philip Whittabane found the rare and powerful Titan's blood. Meanwhile, Hunter is scheming to steal Titan's blood before Kikimora in the mines, but he's failing spectacularly at that too. Of course, there's a chase scene, because why not? Amity and friends stumble upon the chaos, and during a tussle, they accidentally attract Kikimora's attention. While Ida tries to use mining equipment to trigger her harpy transformation, they learn that Hunter is a double agent in disguise. Eventually, chaos ensues, and Ida, Hunter, and Amity find themselves in trouble when they fall into a bottomless pit. But Ida finally channels her harpy just in time to save the day, and then chases after Kikimora's crew.
I can't wait to see a real-life minecart chase.
The hunt for Titan's blood hits a snag when they discover Eclipse Lake is completely dried up. Hunter, covered in dirt and despair, realizing he may have lost the plot completely. He explains that Titan blood is needed to make the portal key work. Amity immediately realizes that the portal key she took from Luz earlier today must have Titan's blood too. With a newfound spark of confidence, she confronts Hunter over the key, leading to a fierce tug of war before eventually she hands it over, but not before subtly snapping it and letting the Titan's blood leak into her hand and stain her glove. Turns out, they had a win after all. And as for Hunter, He's dealing with a bit of guilt over the whole fiasco, but his Palisman decides to brighten his day. Who doesn't love a good pep talk, even if you're stuck in a villain arc? In episode 10, titled Yesterday's Lie, we're back in the human realm, and Luz is on a cleaning spree at her house. Her mom spots her and questions whether Luz really wants to toss a tinfoil swan she made for her. Luz, going through a new me phase, digs it back out and insists she's just tidying up after her transformative summer camp experience. Luz heads to her room, pulls out a shirt, and bam! The real Luz pops up in the mirror.
You!
Talk about a dramatic entrance. Meanwhile, in the Boiling Isles, Luz is teaming up with her squad, Ida, King, and Hooty, to construct a dodgy portal door. Luz discovers some Titan blood was stashed in Amity's glove. She jumps through the portal, only to land in a bizarre dimension filled with black water and cubes. She yells for her friends, and accidentally calls forth a cube that shows her a reflection of her family waiting back home. Things get wild as she encounters a doppelganger, who looks just like her, but with a twist. She's a basilisk named V, with a serious commitment to dodging the spotlight. Oh, and V's been living a double life as the new Luz because, well, she needed a cozy spot to crash after escaping from the clutches of some evil villain named Belos. Yeah, I know. The girls bond amid traps and mirrors, and Luz discovers that V needs some magic to keep up the disguise. V has her own drama, filled with talking rats and a not-so-friendly conspiracy theorist named Jacob, who thinks he's captured a real demon. When things go south and V gets trapped in a cage, Luz tries to rally her mom's intervention. Camilla finally realizes V isn't just a weird lookalike, but a genuine creature with troubles, and instead of freaking out, she beats Jacob like he's a piñata. After a whirlwind escape, Camilla and V return home, promising V a new place to belong. But Luz's heart gets heavy when she realizes her summer adventure made her mom feel pushed away. As Luz disappears back to the Boiling Isles, there's a lot of emotional baggage left behind. But hey, at least Ida, King, and Hooty are ready to get back to their familiar chaos. All you need to know about Follies at the Coven Day Parade is this. The gang is gathered outside school and are discussing Emperor Belos. Like, why does he wear a mask? What does he look like? Until everyone realizes no one really knows what his face looks like, to which Amity adds that she heard his face has a huge scar from wild magic. Also, today's the annual Coven Day Parade. Meanwhile, Kikimora is caught up in her own drama, deciding between her mom and heralding the Coven Day Parade, which Luz conveniently eavesdrops on. In other news, Ida has been paying a spy to keep tabs on Rain, since they've been AWOL since their capture. It's decided they would need some help from someone inside the Emperor's Coven. Right then, Luz notices Kikimora nearby and ponders asking her for help. After hearing Kikimora's problem, Luz suggests that they can help each other. The plan? We're kidnapping Kikimora. Here's how it's gonna go down. King and Hooty will be piloting a float in the parade. At the halfway point, they'll set off glyphs, potions, and fireworks as a distraction, prompting Kikimora to send the scouts to investigate. This is where Ida and Luz come in with smoke to capture Kikimora and rescue Rain. In a parade spectacle that would put Thanksgiving to shame, Luz wrangles Kikimora, while Ida makes it away with Rain while avoiding angry Coven scouts. Cue some action, a few vines swishing, and bam! But there's something different about Rain, claiming loyalty to the Emperor while pushing Ida away. She tried everything to get through to them, but they don't even remember being captured. Meanwhile, Luz and Kikimora are not just running away from vines. Amity rolls up on escape made from abomination material? Because why not? High-speed chases ensue with some heartfelt moments peppered in, and eventually, they end up facing down Terra, who reveals to have done something to Rain to change their personality. The parade wraps up with a hologram of Belos making a creepy speech, hinting at ominous plans for the future, followed by a full-blown face reveal to the entire Boiling Isles. All while Luz and Amity sit there worried, contemplating how they'll navigate whatever the heck Belos has in store next. But hey, one day at a time, right? For episode 12, Elsewhere and Elsewhen, we're going back in time. Luz is glued to her Echo Mouse's projector, discovering that Philip had gathered all his portal ingredients and only needs guidance from a mysterious figure known as the Collector. Both Luz and Ida haven't a clue about this Collector dude, but Luz has a hunch he might help with their portal issues. Ida comforts her, reminding her that it took Philip eons to perfect those doors, so chill out. Luz gets curious about time magic and pressure cooks Ida for info on it. Ida spills the beans about legendary time pools that peek into the past, which used to be their playground in their wild younger days. Luz seizes this as a golden idea to find Philip in the past and learn from him. She finds Lilith, and together they plot to find a time pool using Titan's blood. After some trial and error, they discover an invisible puddle that reveals past eras of the Boiling Isle, including a chance to meet Philip. They plunge into the past and land in a surprisingly chill version of Bonesborough from the Savage Ages, until they stumble upon a scuffle where Philip is getting mugged. Luz swoops in with some glyph magic, and Philip leads the duo into a cave, promising exciting adventures that are totally not fishy. Before long, Lilith pieces together that Philip might be a bit more sketchy than he appears. Despite her warnings, Luz suggests solving the cracking puzzle of the cave door that could unleash who knows what. Just as they think they're in for an ancient treasure, Lilith gets yanked into the dark by a beast lurking inside. Surprise! Philip was using them as bait. While the two struggled with the beast, Philip retrieved a mirror with a crescent moon on it before teleporting away. Luz manages to charm the beast. Seriously, she tickles it, and they escape together, finding Philip on a walking trail. They confront him, to which he gives no answers, so they leave Philip with his bright ideas. And broken nose courtesy of Lilith.
Cool aunt.
Feeling slighted and frustrated, Luz wonders how to get her portal back on track. But Lilith pumps her up with encouragement, and they decide to dabble in more lighthearted adventures before heading home. As Luz and Lilith return, they drop the news about their not-so-glamorous encounter with Philip, leading to high fives and groovy auntie moments. But Philip, in his own little cave, is seething about Lilith and Luz while nursing some nasty injuries and making deals with some sinister force called the Collector. In the next one, titled Any Sport in a Storm, Hunter is tired of being belittled and not being taken seriously, so he's on a mission to earn some respect. Advised by Darius and Eberwolf, he sets out to find new recruits for the Emperor's Coven. Meanwhile, over in the world of Flyer Derby, Willow's trying to recruit for her new club. She gets an ultimatum from her old teacher, who thinks her club is about as useful as a chocolate teapot unless she can actually win a match. So, back to Hunter, who decides to throw on a student disguise and fails spectacularly at recruiting. When he accidentally steps on Viney's pet griffin, he's chased into action. Willow swoops in with her vines and mistakes him for a new student. Desperate to prove himself, Hunter spins a wild backstory about being Caleb Jasper Blood Williams. Fast forward through a series of misadventures, and he reluctantly ends up joining Willow's Flyer Derby Club, ready to wrangle up some members. After some initial skepticism, he begrudgingly sees the untapped potential in their quirky skill sets. Hunter ultimately helps them score a win, presumably because the stakes are high, and he doesn't want to lose face. After a chaotic game, Willow decides on the club name, Emerald Entrails, before Hunter drops a bombshell. He's the Golden Guard. Cue dramatic shock faces. But just when things seem easy peasy, the Coven scouts show up to grab Hunter's new recruit pals. After some classic we can talk our way out of this shenanigans, there's a whole lot of ripping off cloaks, some misguided heroics, and ultimately, Hunter's choice to protect his new friends over his Coven obligations. Darius sees the light, offers a touch of wisdom, and hands Hunter back his cloak, now properly embroidered. Finally, as these shenanigans wrap up, the entrails run into Luz and Amity, who gets an eye-popping surprise when they see Hunter in the selfies. It's a whirlwind of confusion, laughter, and a little magic. And just like that, another strange day in the world of magic and mishaps rolls to a close. There's not much to episode 14, Reaching Out, except for a few things. So, Luz is awakened by her phone buzzing. She panics when she realizes she has a family event to attend later with her mom. After she realizes where she is, she promptly hits the ignore button and buries her head back in the pillows. But Amity shows up with something juicier, a chance to skip family obligations and join a crazy witch brawl. And Luz, always one for a chaotic plan, promises to help Amity ditch the Coven tryouts and tackle the brawl instead. Ida catches wind of the brawl chatter and reminisces about her glory days while casually plotting to offload Amity's unwanted abomaton. At the brawl, Amity and Luz go on to the usual witch duel stuff. Meanwhile, and more importantly, Ida and King are scheming to extract info from Warden Wrath about Belos' plans, using a questionable concoction they call the Blabber Serum. As the rounds heat up, both Luz and Amity shine, but Luz's phone keeps buzzing with ominous reminders of the family event she's dodging. Fast forward past all the fighting and family drama, Amity confronts Luz about her weird reminders all day, to which Luz confesses that today is her father's death anniversary, and that her and Camilla had a tradition of picking flowers and visiting his grave together. A nice little lore nugget for you there. So, cut to the arena. The Blabber Serum has misfired and turned Wrath into a giant monster. A few punches and a ton of ice later, he returns to normal, after which Ida interrogates him about Rain and Belos' plan. After some resistance, he finally confesses he knows nothing of rain, but he heard that the Day of Unity was supposed to unite everyone to the Titan, aka the Boiling Isles. However, he's unsure that this new world would be friendly to magic kind. And just when you think it's the end, we wrap this episode up with pink flowers drifting in the wind, while Luz's mom is left thoughtfully gazing at the night sky, making us all a little mushy inside. Skipping ahead to episode 16, Hollow Mind. This is one of my favorites. We see that Luz wakes up in a creepy hallway plastered with paintings that scream pretentiousness, one of which features Emperor Belos looming over her and the gang, labeled Triumph Over Wild Magic. Massive ego much? Hunter bursts in, accusing her of being clueless about why they're stuck in Belos' mind. Yeah, that's right, they're inside his mind. He reminds her of the previous escapade at the night market, where he was busy playing superhero, and she was just trying to buy some divine witch's wool. Later, Luz leaps on Hunter right as he tries to nab some phantom criminals. This little stunt triggers a neon yellow vial disaster, and boom, they're zapped into Belos' mind. Inside the brainy funhouse, Hunter tries to explain how his family's wild magic trauma makes Belos a beloved figure, which Luz can't believe. All she knows is that their twisted tour through his memories reveals all kinds of nefarious shenanigans, including Belos giving a passionate speech while the town burns behind him. Good old manipulative emperor. At one point, Luz and Hunter stumble upon Inner Belos, which looks like a kid version of the big bad, and they quickly realize this child embodies Belos' lost innocence, or something like that. As they leap through memories, they witness Belos lying to everyone, which only makes Hunter more frustrated. Eventually, things go full circle when they encounter a revelation about Hunter's predecessors being nothing more than Belos' disposable pawns. Oof. It's brutally obvious that Belos has been feeding everyone sweet lies while scheming behind the scenes. Just when Hunter is about to turn on him, he gets sucked into the ground like a magic trick gone wrong. Classic. Finally, with a dramatic showdown brewing, Luz confronts the villain of all villains, only to discover that he's none other than Philip Whittabane, aka the Ogre under the hood. Cue the revelation music. But just as Luz and Hunter are on the brink of cracking this mind case, they manage to escape thanks to a well-timed counting spell and some good old-fashioned plant power from Hunter. Once back home, it's a wholesome yet heavy reunion as everyone celebrates, but Hunter freaks out, realizing he might be a chip off Belos' block, and bolts. Luz tries chasing him down, but with tears in her eyes, she's left questioning everything. Guess she didn't sign up for this wild ride through the Emperor's creepy head. Episode 17 is all about King. In Edge of the World, Luz is going through a messy emotional moment because of her run-in with Belos. Ida insists that she's not safe in the Owl House anymore and that she should leave for somewhere safer. Enter Lilith and Owl sidekick Owlbert, who spill the tea on the draining spell, leading to a new plan involving a letter King got from some mysterious warrior clan. Yes, the same letter Hooty devoured. Naturally, the adults want to keep King and Luz from danger, so this gives them the green light to hit the road with Hooty in tow. So off they go, sailing away on Salty's boat, which, spoiler alert, only has Salty as the crew since the rest left for better opportunities. They land on a strange finger-shaped island, like an extreme version of a high five from a titan. A peek through a hole in the wall activates a portal that spits them out in a skeleton-filled land, where a tall creature named Tarak reveals he's part of a clan that hunts titans, and that King's father was one of them, making King a titan trapper. We then head to their settlement, which is chock full of King lookalikes. King is having the time of his life. Piñatas, waterfalls, giant horns, you name it. While King is busy bonding with his newfound family and getting groomed to join the ranks, Luz and Hooty go seek out their elder, Bill, who they hope to rally against Belos in the future. Bill makes a remark that Titans are worse and goes on to explain that Titans have a huge appetite, have a terrible sounding cry, and even their offspring act like kings. Sound familiar? Bill then explains that in order to free their leader, they have to kill the last Titan in existence, until he realizes King's true nature and gets all fiery about it. Chaos ensues as Tarak and Bill start throwing around accusations, and suddenly Bill's plan to sacrifice King becomes clear amidst the madness. Hooty swoops in to save the day. Luz and King barely escape a Titan-sized disaster, and back on Salty's ship, King's mood takes a dive when he realizes his new family isn't what they thought. They head back home, only to discover that the Coven scouts are lurking ominously outside the Owl House, ready to crash the reunion and throw in a dramatic cliffhanger. Picking up where we left off, O Titan, Where Art Thou continues after Luz and King's escape from the Titan trappers. King is having a not-so-great dream about the In-Between realm, where he hears the Collector gushing about something called the Day of Unity. Just when things are starting to get weird, Luz wakes him up,
Hey, sleepyhead. We're back in Bonesboro.
and they find out they're public enemies in the Boiling Isle since the Emperor's Coven, like the worst house guests ever, has taken over the Owl House. Luckily, Ida and Lilith pulled a fast one and escaped, leaving a treasure map to their hideout in the knee. The trio spills the bean about King being a young titan. Ida is all, "We need to keep you safe," and decides to play the secretive mom card by not telling Luz the whole plan, or lack thereof. Luz, ever the ballsy one, wants to steal back King's beloved toy, Francois, while King prefers some zen time to sort through his titan feels. Off they go, disguised poorly as Coven scouts to sneak around Bonesboro, which is buzzing with Day of Unity prep. Meanwhile, King ventures off and bumps into Steve, a reformed Coven scout who's ditched the uniform for a bike and keeps it chill. They ride around, bond over burger cravings, and swap monster fears. Back at the warehouse, Ida's trying to reach Rain for help, begging them to take Luz and King to keep them safe. But Luz overhears and freaks out, believing her friend is ditching her. An emotional Ida blocks their way, but their cover is blown, and the Coven scouts swoop in to nab them. Ida then spills the beans about their total lack of a plan, making Luz feel abandoned as she's carted off alone for a one-way trip to meet the Emperor. Just when things look bleak, Rain and the gang swoop in for a dramatic rescue. Darius, the planner of the group, had his suspicions about the Day of Unity, and came through with backup to disrupt it. Back at their hideout, Ida gives Luz some Palisman wood for her new Palisman project, and together they tackle crafting, because what's better than bonding over art while planning the world's coolest rebellion? Episode 20 is all about Day of Unity prep. In Clouds on the Horizon, Emperor Belos is all about that portal life as he chats with the Collector, who seems a little cranky about Belos' humanity monster issues. Of course, Belos responds with a wall punch, because why not? Meanwhile, the witches for the Day of Unity are buzzing around, and the anxiety levels are through the roof. Alador is sweating bullets as he voices his paranoia about the growing need for security from Blight Industries, only for Odalia to dismiss him like yesterday's leftovers. Amity, Amira, and Edric are undercover in the factory trying to sabotage the Abomaton assembly line, but they get snagged by a monster robot. Odalia grounds Amity and the twins because that's what she does.
Painfully predictable in their deceit. You're grounded.
At the Cat's Hideout, which stands for Covens Against the Throne, they realize they have a clock ticking down when Belos plans to unleash a draining spell to wipe out everyone marked with Coven sigils, turning their magic into a horrible smoothie. The spell would be channeled through each of the Coven heads. The plan is to have Ida tap into the spell by taking Rain's place as the Bard Coven head. However, this means she will have to be given a sigil, and while worried, Ida agrees to go along with the plan. But hey, anything for heroics, right? Luz is busy putting the final touches on her Palisman, a cute little egg just waiting to decide its purpose, while stressing about Ida's risky decision. Off they go on an airship with Rain taking the lead after Luz makes them promise to keep Ida safe. Luz and King head to Blight Manor to rescue Amity, where she and her crew crash into Blight Manor, and all sorts of romantic chaos ensues between Luz and Amity. Spoiler alert, there's a kiss, and they both practically trip over their own words after. Amity complains about her oblivious parents, and off they go to thwart some nefarious plans. Meanwhile, Ida is dressed to impress in her Bard Coven disguise, ready to roll, yet Rain is anxious about what this means for Ida's magic future. Back at the factory, King and Alador bond over parenting woes as King shares the panic-inducing details of the Day of Unity, turning Alador to the good side. Luz and the gang's infiltration fizzles out when they get caught, and Odalia shows she can't be outsmarted, almost ruining everything. For the dramatic cinematic showdown, Amity loses her cool with her mom, claiming Luz is her girlfriend and chaos reigns as family loyalty is tested. Alador finally gets his moment to shine, standing up to Odalia, but the situation only escalates when Kikimora swoops in and snags Hunter. Alador flips the script, saving the day from Odalia's grasp with an abomination magic fade-out, resulting in Odalia's swift downfall. With their family dynamic in tatters, they dart off to face Kikimora, only to have a shocking twist reveal that the hunter she caught is actually Luz, thanks to a nifty illusion by Gus. Classic misdirection. It's a race against the clock to save Luz and stop Belos, who now has Luz being hand-delivered to him. It's the finale of Season 2. In King's Tide, King is back in Dreamland, overhearing the Collector getting increasingly frustrated with Emperor Belos, who's trying to convince them he's trustworthy. Spoiler, King isn't buying it. He wakes up on Willow's lap. Cozy, right? The crew is on an airship headed to the Titan, all tense and cranky about the situation. An argument about speed breaks out, courtesy of Amity stressing about her girlfriend Luz, while Alador questions Hunter's loyalty. A distraction hits when Willow calls in some snack-bringing Palisman, which lightens the mood momentarily. Meanwhile, the witches of the Boiling Isle are prepping for the Day of Unity, and Belos is up on his balcony promising everyone a magical paradise, right before he starts draining their magic like I drain a Capri Sun. Ida and her crew are hiding, plotting their next move, while Belos pulls some magical shenanigans of his own. In the midst of chaos, Ida pulls a sneaky disguise trick, but when she gets caught, things start spiraling. Back on the ship, Hunter and Alador clash, and as Amity jumps into action to control some abomatons, the airship goes down in flames. All the drama kicks off as the eclipse nears, and Belos goes full-on monster mode while trying to catch Luz. As the brawl against Belos heats up, Luz tries to outsmart him with an epic play that backfires when she gets the upper hand, branding him with his own sigil. A happy ending? Not yet. The plot thickens with King getting schooled by Kikimora about the Collector, who turns out to be a cosmic child with some serious power. With all hell breaking loose, King finally connects with the Collector to help stop the draining spell. Ida, in a heroic moment, gets some much-needed assistance from Rain, but they're all in the thick of serious repercussions. In a heart-wrenching moment, King decides to stay behind to help his friends escape, delivering a speech that will tug at your heartstrings. The crew, now stuck in the human realm, find some comfort in the chaos when they show up at Luz's home, looking defeated as ever. It's Season 3, and we start with the first 45-minute special titled Thanks to Them. Picture this: Luz, Amity, Gus, Willow, and Hunter get shunted through a portal by King, leaving them stranded in the mundane human realm. Luz gets all emotional and has a heartfelt reunion with her mom, who is overjoyed to see her again. Meanwhile, her pals are busy playing house, brewing tea, and helping clean up, while Luz and Hunter have a secret bathroom heart-to-heart about the skeletons in their closet, like Luz's guilt over inadvertently aiding the big bad Belos, and Hunter's secret that he's a clone. Time rolls on, and since they can't find a way back to the demon realm, they make the best of it. Luz comes out as bisexual, and her mom is the ultimate supportive parent. They're juggling life in the human world, which includes dealing with common things like school and shopping, while Hunter's trying to adjust to life outside of the clutches of the Emperor's Coven. But Luz isn't thriving. She's spiraling into despair, feeling guilty about her past actions. Just when they think things might get fun again with a Halloween festival, it turns into chaos. Gus earns some unexpected applause with his magic tricks, and amidst all the shenanigans, they find a mysterious map that hints at Titan blood. As secrets bubble to the surface and new dangers materialize, things take a dark turn when Belos rears his ugly head in Hunter's shadow. Hunter starts to show multiple signs of Belos within himself, until finally, in a graveyard showdown, Hunter reveals himself to be possessed by Belos, and proceeds to rat on Luz about how she's helped him meet the Collector. Then begins an all-out battle. With Belos at the upper hand, Hunter's Palisman Flapjack desperately tries to get through to him, only to be wounded severely. Hunter begins to fight off the possession and pledges to break free from Belos' control, tossing the vial of Titan's blood into a nearby lake, prompting Belos to separate from Hunter and go after it. As Hunter lies there unconscious and unable to wake up, we see Flapjack giving his life force to save Hunter, leaving everyone in tears, including me. Belos manages to open the portal and escape in the meantime, and just as the portal to the demon realm flickers and threatens to close, the whole gang, including Luz and her mom, leap through, ready to tackle whatever comes next. And of course, V's left behind without the car keys, cause they're with Camilla, perfecting the art of awkward exit strategies. In For the Future, after King gets dragged into a game of life and death by the Collector, things go from bad to worse as he quickly turns Lilith and Hooty into puppets and sends them to the Archive House, which is creepy enough to be the setting of a horror movie. Meanwhile, Ida tries to save her son, transforms into her harpy self, but her curse turns her into a grumpy beast. Fast forward a few months, Luz wakes up in the Between Realm, but before she can say what the heck is going on, Amity yanks her back to the Boiling Isles, which now looks like a toddler's fever dream with all its pastel colors and floating castle in tow. The gang's reunited, but it's not exactly a happy reunion. Hunter's sulking over Flapjack's absence, while Willow puts on a brave front despite secretly worrying about her family. Luz, feeling the weight of the world in a serious case of the what-ons, vows to escape with her mom after rescuing everyone. They soon discover that the townfolks are now puppet playthings for the Collector, and even some familiar faces have taken up a no-strings-attached lifestyle, but with actual strings. Meanwhile, Belos is having a rough time, partially because he's basically falling apart, and he's contemplating some seriously dark magic. Oh, and there's Basha, who's surprisingly taken the reins at Hexside, making life miserable. The gang realizes they have to put on their superhero capes and take matters into their own hands. As chaos continues to reign, Luz's group has to navigate their own growing pains, battles, and emotional meltdowns. And just when you think the Collector is playing fair, he and Belos are plotting their own little game of manipulation, which means our heroes are in for more trouble than they signed up for. Everything's a mess and full of feels, but with Luz's recently hatched Palisman ready to roll, they just might turn the tide. It's the grand finale, the third and final 45-minute special titled Watching and Dreaming, which sadly brings our journey to an end. So, the Collector snaps his fingers and the gang gets tangled up in some serious light threads. Just as they're about to bust out of there, Luz takes a little nap and gets whisked away to the in-between realm. She finds herself weirdly chilling in Emperor Belos' throne, dressed in his robes like it's a costume party, with her sidekick Stringbean giving her moral support. She investigates the castle, only to find her friends turn into stone statues. Amity shows up, looking all grim, and accuses Luz of being the bad guy. Talk about kicking a girl when she's down. Ida, meanwhile, is fighting her way out of a prison cell, turning into a harpy like it's no big deal, only to get caught in a net and surrounded by Coven scouts. Surprise! They think she's dangerous now. King wakes up in a spooky shrine area talking to a creepy Bill apparition, who wants to make him part of his collection. Not good. Luz is flying around until she finds Willow, who has some serious rage issues directed at her. Willow is holding a wilting plant and accuses Luz of ruining everything. A confused Luz narrowly escapes their little throwdown. Things go from bad to worse when Luz steps onto a gym stage, where Gus calls her out for being a hypocrite, and she gets booted off. Then, a heartbroken Hunter starts crying about losing Flapjack and blames Luz for everything. Feeling the heat, Luz realizes this whole scenario isn't real, because Amity misquoted a line from the Good Witch Azura.
Just battle! Wait, say that again?
Which only sends Luz deeper into her existential spiral. The friends, momentarily transformed into puppets, snap back to reality and warn Luz that the Collector is messing with them. They hand her a light glyph, and whoosh, Luz wakes up in a galaxy of toys. Luz uses her magic to save Ida and King from their own nightmares, and they share a tearful reunion while the Collector, spying on them, gets all mopey and confused. In his head, he thinks friendship is all about never lying, so Luz tries to prove that friendship isn't about perfection. Meanwhile, chaos escalates when Belos shows up in moldy dragon form, threatening to destroy everything. The Collector attempts a hug on Belos, which gets them both blasted, but Luz heroically jumps in the way. Classic move. In the cosmic void, Luz awakens and meets King's dad, who looks like a titan and delivers some real talk about ambition versus delusion. Then, after a dramatic power exchange, Luz wakes up, now sporting some titan upgrades. With her newfound badassery, she takes on Belos, who's now a mold monster trying to control the heart of the Isles. In a thrilling climax, Luz pulls Belos out, and the gang teams up to obliterate him for good, while the Collector tries his hand at empathy for the first time. With Belos reduced to sludge and a new dawn breaking, Luz, Ida, and King celebrate. The Collector, keeping his promise, brings everyone back to normal and sets off to find himself in the stars. Fast forward 4 years. Luz is ready to tackle college, while her friends are thriving with their new lives. They gather at the Owl House, now transformed into a magical university run by Ida, where Luz gets a surprise quinceañera to celebrate her hard work rebuilding the Isles. King wows everyone with his new light glyph skills, and just as the celebration begins, the Collector sends shooting stars across the sky for a final, spectacular farewell. It's a heartwarming, magical ending as Luz and her crew bask in the glow of their friendship and all they've accomplished together.
1, 2, 3. Bye.
And that was the entire chaotic, magic-filled story of the Owl House. I know, I'm sad it ended too. Anyways, let me know your favorite episode in the comments, or if I happen to miss anything. Stay weird, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one.